Welcome to Christmas season. Welcome to 9-2 Vikings season. I am Dustin Baker. This is VikesNow, and I'm back after about 5 days off for the holiday. We're going to decompress the broad takeaways, the fallout from Vikings Patriots on Thanksgiving night. Kirk Cousins got a win with the Vikings despite a ho-hum primetime reputation. Go figure. He's actually not bad on primetime. He's just usually not as good as his usual self in primetime. So thankfully for his sake, he was able to debunk a QB win narrative. And more importantly, the Vikings toppled Bill Belichick's number one ranked defense per EPA per play en route to 9-2. So let's start off. The first thing I want to point out, I think we talked about this in pretty much every episode last week. There was only a couple, but it's the win for Minnesota, especially at home. There was this, I guess, kind of realm whether or not getting your asses kicked by the Cowboys by 37 points plops you back into a playoff participant-only status versus Super Bowl contender. Now, the Vikings are very strange that they don't really do anything excellent except win, especially in the fourth quarter. So it's been confusing to get a drop on this team. That's probably why they don't blow anybody out, is that offense, defense, special teams, they don't do anything fantastic, but they find ways to win to the tune of 9-2. So after getting beat by the Cowboys, myself and I think others started to wonder, all right, if you lose at home again to the Patriots by any score margin, then you're probably one of those teams that's destined for an early playoff exit. What does that mean? Well, it could be a one and done. You could host your home playoff game, get your ass beat, kind of like you did against the Cowboys. Why was that important for the New England game is because if you lose back-to-back games at home, then you are no longer relevant as a Super Bowl contender. However, this brand of Vikings found a way to bounce back and outlasted the Patriots 33-26. Therefore, in my estimation, they can go back to that quasi-Super Bowl contender atmosphere. Now, I'll tell you that the team is so confusing and not dominant that even I am like, yeah, they're probably not going to win a Super Bowl. But then I rest on my laurels saying, well, who am I to say that when they keep finding these scrappy-ass ways to win in the fourth quarter? This was absent in 2020 and 2021. So I hold out hope that they'll find a way to put it all together in the month of December and more importantly in January, that all of these puzzle pieces, all of the first-time head coach, everybody getting acclimated to everything, it can possibly hit its stride in December. Now, I wish I would have seen that beforehand, but listen, they beat the Buffalo Bills on the road, and they beat the New England Patriots at home, and that was supposed to be the most damning stretch of football. Buffalo, Dallas, New England. No matter how you dice it, getting out of that with a 2-1 record would have been considered marvelous, and I'll be damned, they did it. So the long story short on that one is that I have reaffirmed in my head that they are, because the NFC is so weak, that the Vikings are indeed Super Bowl contenders, and had they lost to the Patriots, I probably would have had them pegged as maybe like the 2019 team that found a way to beat the Saints, then got their asses beat the next week in San Francisco. And the NFC is so different now. I wrote an article about it on VikingsTerritory.com for about 5 reasons. First, the Rams are no longer hungry. They're 3-8. Can you believe that? Matthew Stafford is hurt now, but they sucked even when he wasn't hurt and was playing. So the Rams have disqualified themselves from the postseason. That's number one. Drew Brees and Sean Payton no longer work in New Orleans. At this time in a regular year, they'd be in the mix, probably 9-2 themselves. Neither one of those guys work there, and therefore the Saints are not a problem. The Packers have these tremendous blues. Can't figure out if Rodgers is washed or just hurt or Devontae Adams meant the world to them, but they have also taken themselves out of the equation. Russell Wilson, usually, he used to be good, remember? His Seahawks would be eyeing the NFC Championship right about now. I guess I'd say from every year from 2012 to 2020. And then the Bucs somehow lead the division at 5-6. That's their record. They're going to host a home playoff game finishing about 9-8 or something like that. So all 5 of those things open the door for the NFC, and bada bing, the Vikings are in it right there with the Eagles, Cowboys, and 49ers. So playoff participant versus Super Bowl contender. I believe that was answered with the win over New England. Had they lost, I would have had them as this playoff participant. Yay, first-year head coach, got to the postseason, attaboy, and that would have been about it. But now I think they're right back in the hunt. The next one is this version of Cousins that's more of a gunslinger than we've ever seen before. I think he did this a little bit in Washington. But with Mike Zimmer's tutelage, Cousins was always under wraps. Like, don't turn the ball over. Cousins would even say after games, like, oh, God, you don't want to get interceptions. Those are the devil. And I think now he has this leash and this encouragement from Kevin O'Connell that says, hey, go fling the thing, force it in tight windows. If you have a pick, who cares? Move on. Go win the game in the fourth quarter like you have been doing. And this is different. So I want to point out that we're 11 games into this thing. I think that this is the new normal for Cousins inside Kevin O'Connell's offense, and that is the risk-taking. When he threw the interception against New England, it was a classic overthrow. I don't even think that was anybody's fault. I think that was his. It was 3rd and long, I believe, and that's just going to happen. If you want Cousins not to be conservative underneath with the Zimmer safe approach, and you want him to fling it, then you're going to have to take the bad because he isn't quite good to do it all. That's why he's not an elite quarterback. He's a damn good one. So get used to whether it was the Micah Parsons strip sack, even though that really wasn't risk-taking, that was just poor pass protection, or these continual interceptions that he's able to shrug off. He did it against the Bills. I think this is how it's going to go for a guy who is encouraged to go out there, make plays, find Justin Jefferson. You're going to get a little bit of the bad and a whole lot of the good. So this is the way of it. When Cousins throws an interception, let's hope it's limited to one. Don't, seethe with anger. I think this is just the way he's going to be, and this is a byproduct of being a little bit more aggressive. Next, this one is frustrating. Greg Joseph continues to miss extra points. I'm finished. He's missed 5, and I know they're going to stick with him because they would have already probably signed some dude to the practice squad by now. But this is not normal. It's not right. It's going to bite you in the ass. Now, the guy did redeem himself marvelously in 2021 after blowing the game against the Cardinals, and he used to be money from 50 yards and beyond. He's only hit 1 out of 6 this year, but can't keep doing this. Missed extra points. Somehow the Vikings have circumvented 5 of them, and we don't even know if the guy can hit from 53, for example. You would hope that he might be able to, but he's given you no evidence this season to show you that, he's automatic like he was last year. That was the one saving grace about Greg Joseph in 2021, was at least he can hit from 50 and beyond. So I obviously don't have a solution because I'm not the general manager. The only way I can dress this one up is that the law of averages suggests that he should be done missing extra points for like 2 years because he's already missed 5. That's the only optimistic thing I can think of to explain why they're going to just stick with him. And then even on the missed long field goals, he's hit 1 of 6 this year. That means there should be about 4 good ones upcoming, and I guess that would be pretty special if those were in the postseason. But you can count me in that if they made a move for Rodrigo Blankenship or who's some of the other ones, Austin Seibert, I'd be like, okay, cool. We're trying something new because right now it's not working. We're far enough into the regular season that it's fair to be frustrated. We're in familiar territory being pissed with the kicker. These extra point misses are unforgivable. That's my spiel on the kicker. Let's hope that he totally dazzles for the rest of the way. Next is the defense of the Vikings is so damn confusing. I can't quite figure it out. I know that there's this obvious promotion of bend but don't break. We don't want to give up the big play. But why do we have to wrap our arms around that and be like, this is the way that we are. We suck for 3 quarters, but baby, in the fourth quarter, we're going to come out strong. Why not have that philosophy the whole game? I guess I'm spoiled from most of the Zimmer era, and I knew this would happen, that I got so accustomed to the good version of Zimmer defense just running rampant. And now I cannot understand why the MO is wait until the fourth quarter to do the thing. Can you explain it? I know that the Vikings have played a lot of mobile quarterbacks, and those are traditionally frustrating for Ed Donatel. But, thank God they show up in the fourth quarter because otherwise the team would be right where they were last year. probably chilling at 5-6 or some shit like that. So I will give them massive kudos for coming alive in the fourth quarter. But again, for the life of me, I cannot figure out why you just can't do that throughout the game. If you want to advertise bend but don't break, great. But why are we doing that? They should have the personnel to be good for all 4 quarters. It also leads me to believe there has to be somebody within the organization that gets it, that agrees with you and me that why don't we just play good defense for most of the game and then really turn it on in the fourth? I had no idea when Ed Donatil gave his opening introductory speech, which was awesome, that we would just concede, that we're going to be a middle-of-the-road defense until the fourth quarter. I don't like it, but I guess I'm doing a little bit too much bitching at 9-2. We shall see if it tightens up, but there has to be somebody in the organization that can find a better way on defense if this is the best that we can do, is just let Mac Jones throw for 382 yards. Tom Brady would have been the exact same thing for the Patriots. That's how good Mac Jones looked on Thanksgiving night. I think you could have interchanged Brady and Mac Jones, played the same. So something's got to change on defense. I don't know if it'll be this year, but I wish they would be more aggressive in the middle of the game, because that part matters too. That's maybe how you'd blow a team out, is if you play defense in the first 3 quarters. Thank goodness it's opportunistic. If this defense didn't force turnovers, we'd be in a world of hurt. But I also recognize that's part of Ed Donatil's MO, is that bend but don't break also comes with forcing turnovers. So it's taken me a long time to adjust to this. I don't think that I will. But again, broken record here. Thank goodness it's a fourth quarter defense, because the team would be in the basement without it. Getting down to the nitty-gritty of the show, home field advantage is still alive by a whisker. The Vikings have a 16% chance per 538.com of getting home field advantage throughout the playoffs, which would also mean a first-round bye. And if somehow the Titans beat the Eagles and the Vikings take care of business against the Jets, that climbs to 33%. It's still not great. But for the rest of the way, I believe the Eagles have 6 games left as well. The Vikings have to finish with a record 1 game better than the Eagles, and then the entire shebang would go through US Bank Stadium, which you should want, because I have my fears about the Vikings on the road in an NFC championship. If the Packers would have won last night, bless their heart, that would have helped the Vikings substantially, but go figure, the time that you need the Packers to win, they lose. Home field advantage is alive and well. It would have been dead if the Vikings would have lost to the Patriots. Any idea of perhaps getting the 1 seed would have been completely vanquished, and we'd be back to the drawing board trying to figure out if they were going to get the 3rd seed, 4th seed, or 2th seed. 4th seed probably not, because the Buccaneers, I think, have that in the bag. All right, but the bounce back was so vitally important. I got to address the Hunter Henry thing too, because it was at home. If any of these 2 games were on the road, I would have been like, oh, that sucks. You got bashed at AT&T Stadium. Life goes on. Or, conversely, you went to Foxborough. You found a way to lose. That's the way it usually goes for opposing teams there, with or without Brady. But everything was so crucial about the Vikings win because it was at home. Good teams, elite teams, Super Bowl contending teams win at home, especially after they just got a beat down 40-3 against the Cowboys. So I went to both games, and that's what I was thinking of the whole drive up there, 4 hours from my home in South Dakota to Minneapolis, is that, why does this Thanksgiving game, why does it feel like a must-win when they are 8-2? If they lost, the world isn't over. They're still 8-3, going to go to the postseason. It's because you need to take care of business in your house. That's what they did. They rectified the sins of getting blown out by the Dallas Cowboys. And then finally, on the Hunter Henry touchdown, I got to see this in person, which isn't the greatest vantage point, because you don't get all of the replays that television inevitably had. But I think the fundamental debate about Hunter Henry is whether or not he caught the ball and had possession and then crossed the goal line. Because if not, it's elementary that the ball hit the ground and there was, the bobble. So when I got home, trying to figure out what the big deal is about this situation, because it very clearly hit the ground, I think the vantage point from NFL brains, Packer fans, is that he caught the ball, had possession, and then crossed the goal line. That's the only thing I can wrap my head around, because otherwise the ball hit the ground and it goes like that in his hands. So I'm not sure what the NFL rule is. It must be that he had to have possession as it hit the ground, because the call was shockingly overturned. But for your context, if you debate this the rest of the week, it's probably dead and gone, is that the only argument for Hunter Henry's touchdown being a touchdown was that he had the ball, possession was established in that millisecond, crossed the goal line, end of story. Because if you're resting all of your case on the fact the ball didn't hit the ground, you're tripping. It very evidently hit the ground, and that's why the thing spun in his hand, and that's probably why it was overturned. All right. Next on the docket is the New York Jets. Mike White's coming to town. He looked wonderful against the Bears, but that's the Bears defense, who traded away Robert Quinn and Roquan Smith, and then decided that, hey, we're going to figure out how to use our quarterback now while we have a shitty defense. They could have had both, but evidently they're eyeing the future. And I think tomorrow we'll go through one more episode about some of the surprising things that came out of Vikings Patriots, and then Wednesday we'll start to get into the Jet stuff with Josh Fry. That's all I got. Skol, baby.